Hey, Golf Podcast fans, Mike here. Don't forget to join our free Facebook group to continue the conversation with me, Frank, and all of the other golf fanatics and loyal Golf Podcast fans. Oh, and by the way, we do some killer giveaways there too. So check us out on Facebook. Just search the Golf Podcast and hit the join group button today. All right, Frank, it's time to talk golf.
Welcome to the Golf Podcast, presented by Golficity, where we bring you the tips, instruction, and support you need to get the most out of your golf game. And now your hosts, Frank and Mike.
Welcome to the Golf Podcast. This is episode 153. I'm one of your hosts, Mike, and along with me, I have the voice that you hear 90% of the time on the show, Frank. Frank, what is going on, man? Happy February. We are now in the full swing of the PGA Tour season, and we're about 60 to 75 days away from teeing off out here, man.
Yeah, what's up, Mike? I can't wait to get out there. It's still so cold here. The golf course is covered with snow. So I just got the itch so bad. You know, I'm doing whatever I can, practicing a little bit indoors. Haven't had a chance to hit the simulator though this year. You know, since moving up here up to New York, you know, from Jersey, when you and I used to play in the PGA simulators down there, I'm kind of missing it because the one they have here, honestly, it's better just to go out and get an Opti shot. It's really not accurate, but I know you still get to play in some of them, and I saw you sharing it on the Facebook group as well. What you hit that one drive, what was like 290 or something?
Yeah, 292. And the reason I did that video is because it was the first driver swing in about maybe 2.5 months.
Wow. So
I was warming up in that simulator booth. I was hitting some wedges. I was hitting some irons. So I was loose. So I said, all right, let me film my first drive in about 2 months. And I happened to hit a really nice low draw that carried maybe 280 and it rolled out to like 292. But I got to tell you, Frank, it felt so good. I mean, I urge you all to get out there and try to find a simulator and just swing. I can't tell you, it was like the best 2 hours that I've had in a long time. And what was cool was when we got there, I said, you know, hey, I haven't been here in a long time. Any new courses? You know, did you load up any? And they're like, yeah, we got Hazeltine Ryder Cup edition. Wow. We got Glen Eagles, you know, previous Ryder Cup. So I'm like, all right, listen, let's go Hazeltine. And it was like one of the coolest courses.
That's so cool. Mm-hmm. I always love that too. And I mean, it's so much fun to just play like 18 holes in like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, and you can have a beer, whatever you want in there. It's just like, it's relaxing. It's, you know, it's a way to get like, have fun with the game and not be too serious in there. It can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's like equivalent to just going to the gym and working out for an hour or something because, you know, I shot a 78. Obviously, it wasn't a real score, you know, because we were playing 9-foot gimmies on the putting green. But the best thing I got out of it, I was striping my irons really nicely. And I know that these big, expensive $75,000, you know, simulators are pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was hitting 185-yard 8-irons, Frank. I mean, I got really strong in the winter like I usually do. I work out like an animal in the winter. So got a lot of strength. I hope it transitions out there in the spring. We'll see.
Yeah, without a doubt. And anybody who's new to the simulators or haven't had a chance to try them, the ones Mike's talking about, there's two types. There's ones that have sensors in the floor, and they're little like almost looks like a lot of little cameras, but it's just little sensors, and they pick up as your club moves through the ball. And it picks up, you know, the angle of the club, the angle of attack, the speed of the club, and it uses that to calculate, you know, distance and stuff like that. But the really highly accurate ones and the really crazy cool ones are the ones that they don't have any of that. They've just, it's actually a sensor up above your head that registers, whether it be radar or camera. I'm not 100% sure because they have those little markings on the ball for it to pick up, but it's a lot like using a TrackMan. It picks up the actual trajectory, the spin, the angle, everything of the ball and uses that to calculate it. So it does calculate very accurately. I mean, it's just, at that point, it's just physics, and it will apply different weather conditions. That's cool. We've played it before where it's windy, right?
Right.
And you have to like factor that in. So it's cool. It's a great time.
Yeah, a lot of fun. I mean, the buddy that I played with, we both tied. It was great. It came down to the 18th hole. We both ended up shooting 78. So it's like, we got a little time left on the booth. Let's go out and play another hole. And
Yeah.
sure enough, he beat me on the playoff hole. But it was fun.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
That's cool. Speaking of kind of playoff holes and the season kicking back in, one thing I always loved this week, I always loved the Waste Management Phoenix Open. I think it's a ton of fun to watch. That's going on now. So this podcast comes out on Sunday. So it's going to be during the final round. And that's always a fun day of TV too, because I watch that and then watch the Super Bowl. But it's the 16th hole. That stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is just so cool. I saw a time lapse on Facebook of them setting that stadium up, and it goes from, nothing to like those just surrounded by that seating that seats like, what is it? Like 30,000 people or something?
Yeah, something crazy like that.
Wild. So I see them setting that up, but also it's going to be crazy, this year. I mean, because it's just, there's so much going on. A lot of big names playing. Not Tiger though, right? Tiger's overseas.
No, he's in the desert over there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's playing in Dubai. But I was kind of interested when I heard that he was back. He's playing on the tour. I was kind of thinking, I imagine Tiger back in that. Because ever since that hole in one, everybody went nuts. But it's always a fun atmosphere, so I'm looking forward to it. We always get some fun stuff on social media this week too.
Yeah, it's fun. And one of the guys in the office popped in. And he said, hey, listen, bucket list guys trip is Scottsdale this time of year. I totally agree, because you can go out for a long 4-day. You can hit up 1 or 2 days at the Waste Management, probably play 4, 5, 6 rounds of golf, end up watching the big game somewhere and then like flying home Monday or something. I think that would be the ultimate guys getaway. You know what I mean? For me.
Yeah, no doubt. And as far as weather, it's the best spot in the country pretty much right now for this time of year, because it's cold right now all the way down to Georgia. I know like I said, my father was just down playing Doral. And it was nice, but even when he was there, it was in the 80s and they were saying, you lucked out. It was cold the last couple of weeks, but you get out that way, Phoenix, Arizona, stuff like that. Sure. It's murder in the summer, but in these winter months, the weather it's very hard to beat. You get that consistency. Sure. It's dry. You're not worried about getting down there and getting rained out. But that is one heck of a trip. And you know what? Let's put it out there. Anybody who's taken a trip there, or if you live out that way, let us know. Post about your experience in the Facebook group. I saw, I'm trying to remember who it was. Somebody was sharing about playing in Vegas recently. Jamie Hart, I'm just going through there. He says, great day to live out in Vegas. And he's just kind of sharing a nice weather out that way. But yeah, if you've had a chance to play TPC Scottsdale, let us know about your experience. Post it in the Facebook group for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of TPC Scottsdale, I see a lot of the guys out there this week have been, all over social media, at Top Golf Scottsdale. Mm-hmm. And Top Golf has kind of taken the golf world by storm by creating the ultimate, bowling alley for golfers. I think it's such a cool concept. And I kind of want to tease the fans a little bit here by letting everyone know that you and I, Frank, we're going to be doing a show in March live at Top Golf here in New Jersey. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm hoping some of our local, listeners in the tri-state or whoever close, it's kind of far from here, but hopefully they get a chance to come down, hang out with us, hit some golf balls. I think it'll be a pretty fun time.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We're going to record a show from there, and we're just going to, tee it up and just play some of the games. It's really cool. I mean, anybody who hasn't checked it out, definitely, Google it, Top Golf, take a look. You may have seen the commercials where they've got all the different targets that light up when you hit them. It tells you where they went. So it's kind of like a driving range on steroids. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Anybody who's near, Edison, New Jersey, put it on your calendar. We're going to be out that way. We'll talk more about it as we get closer, and we'll give you guys more of the details of when we're going to be there. We're still kind of ironing that out with Top Golf, but we'll let you know. And we wanted to do this, and we want to do more this summer too, because we know a lot of the listeners out there are saying, let's put some events together. And it's always been kind of a challenge because, our listeners are spread out all over the globe. So it's kind of hard to get everybody together. We've always had the idea of maybe doing a little tournament. We're wondering maybe if we can do like one kind of digitally. We started talking with the guys from VPAR about that and seeing what we can do, but we will dream something up. In the meantime, we're going to try to do some more live stuff. And when we do, we'll let you guys know about it here.
Friendly competition that day, Frank? What do you think?
Oh, definitely.
All right, you're on.
Yeah, we got to do a little friendly competition. Right. Whoever's there, maybe we can get them involved too, and we'll get everybody in the booth and just have some fun.
Yeah, sounds good.
I got to imagine the game's going to be a little rusty, though.
That's all right. No excuses. Come on, you got time. You got about a month to, hit a couple of balls.
There you go. I'm just going to go outside and just hit them wherever they go. No, but all right. So you know what? Let's kind of shift gears. Let's get right into tonight's topic because we got some interesting tips here. And this is something that when I was researching this and working with this, it was starting to really surprise me. And then I realized how many things I was doing wrong. What we're going to talk about is the fried egg lie. In the bunker, everybody knows what we're talking about. It looks like a fried egg. It's plugged there in the sand. You walk up to it, you see it that way, and you're like, oh, it's a real, kick in the what when you see that because it's tough. We all know it's a tough one to get out of there. It makes bunker shots already a difficult shot, and it makes it that much more challenging when it's really kind of plugged in there and you realize what the work you got to do to get it out. But what I hadn't realized, Mike, is that I was consistently doing a lot of things wrong. So now I learned a lot from this, and that's why we wanted to share it and talk about it here. And one experience in particular just reminds me, just from last summer, I played a course somewhere down in Jersey, when we were on vacation. And, the course was in tough shape. I talked about it here. It was in really rough shape, but one thing I definitely remember on 18, I landed in a greenside bunker, and man, did I have your, stereotypical fried egg lie. It was bad. I mean, it was bad enough. I was snapping pictures of it. And it took me 2 shots to get out of that bunker. And as heavy as that sand was and as bad as that lie was, I realize a lot now that I had done a lot of things wrong. So I want to go through that. I want to talk about what I did wrong and what I've learned. And maybe we can kind of save some other people a couple strokes too by not having them make the same mistake I did. So again, we all know, the fried egg lie. You've heard of it. It's named that way for very obvious reasons. It looks like a fried egg sitting in the pan, as it cooks. But here's the thing. What do you do in that situation? You can't walk away and take an unplayable.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I do. And I just close my eyes and swing as hard as I can.
You know what? There's some, merit to that swinging as hard as you can thing. And we'll talk about that because the truth of the matter is that sand is going to really take a lot off of it, when you make contact with that sand. So you really need to be able to power through this thing. But you need to confront it. And the first thing to do, and this is something we always talk about, we talk a lot about technique, but we also talk about strategy. And a big part of strategy is setting the proper expectations. And a smart golfer will go into this shot knowing, that there's nothing wrong with readjusting your expectations. All right. The simple physics of it, and if you have a shot that is kind of like buried like that, it's just not possible to hit that perfect shot and, get that nice high loft and stop it short on the green. It's just not something that can be done. Where if you had another greenside bunker lie, absolutely. But this type of lie, you've got to start to reset and rethink about it because it's very easy to let this get out of control. You could very quickly end up with 2 or 3 strokes in that bunker trying to make that perfect shot. The better thinking pattern, the better way to go about this instead is just think, let me limit the damage. This is a tough lie. This is going to be an issue here. My goal at this point is just to get it on the green, right? Instead of chasing after that pin or trying to pull off this perfect finesse shot, just get it out, get it on the dance floor, and then you can work from there. All right. But that's what we talk about managing the expectations. You're just not going to be able to hit that high lofted, sand shot with backspin that just stops cold. It's just not something that's possible from this type of lie. So just understanding that and then changing your approach can go a long way. And sometimes it's like that pill you have to swallow, so to speak, swallow your pride and do it. But it's a smart play. It's the smart play is finding that way to safely get it somewhere on the green and do the work with your putter from there. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, again, it comes down to that swing speed for me. Like if I'm buried in a greenside bunker and I know my only chance is to put as much loft and swing as hard as I can and close my eyes and pray and hope for the best, But I think getting it on the green is a huge accomplishment with that type of lie.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. When you, Mike, you set up for just let's say it's a regular greenside bunker shot. What's your setup look like?
Regular greenside bunker. I'll usually play the ball back in my stance a little bit, nice little crouch down, legs, relatively further apart, try to bury my legs into this, get some good traction in my feet. And I'll just take a nice smooth swing, hit behind the ball and loft it up.
How about your club face? You open it up?
I do. Greenside, I'll open it up big time.
And then how about your stance too? Do you open up your stance?
I do. I open the stance as well.
Okay. So that's everything that's wrong with hitting a fried egg lie. And that's everything I did because you know why? That's exactly the right play for a regular greenside bunker shot. If it's not buried in the sand, it's just, if it's rolled into the sand or whatever it may be, and you've got some ball to work with there and it's not beneath, the surface, that's what you do. Open it up, open up the club face, open up the stance, put it back in the stance a little bit, and that's the perfect shot. But here again, this is a different animal altogether. And when we're approached with it, we need to change that technique. So all those things, like I said, they're going to be great otherwise, but they're useless when you're facing the fried egg. Here's part of it. Let's start with the one thing, opening that club face. If you open the club face in this situation, you're very highly likely to hit that line drive right into the, the face of the bunker in front of you. What you want to do here, and I'll link to it as well in the show notes, which you can get to by going to golficity.com/episode 153. But one thing that I have there's a video, instruction by Hank Haney. Excellent instruction where he talks about exactly this. Instead of opening that club face, you want to keep that club face square. And what Hank Haney says is that leading edge of your club, that's really the digging implement, because we got to switch gears here. We got to think a little differently. Here we got to dig. You got to dig that ball out. Okay. So you want to have that leading edge to work with. So again, you want to make sure you work with that. Also, you don't want to put that ball back too far in your stance, because that will tend to make your swing too steep. And the ball's, if you get too steep, I know anywhere else you say, yeah, move it back in your stance, whatever. But if you get too steep here, you get the chance of not getting that height you need. All right. So you want to play it in the middle of your stance, and you want to have that club face square. And then it's a good idea too. Keep that, your actual setup, keep your stance closed and in the middle of your stance so that you can really use that leading edge, because you're going to have to dig here.
It almost sounds like you're setting up for a fairway 5-iron shot, except for the closed stance. I mean, are you taking that type of swing?
Well, in a lot of ways, it's more similar to that than a traditional bunker shot.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So your stance is going to be square, and your club face is going to be square, because you need to be able to get in there and really dig into it. So that's something you want to do. So erring away from putting that ball back, because if you keep it in the middle of your stance, you're going to be able to still, again, club selection, you want to use the most lofted club you have. So for me, I like to use a 60-degree wedge. All right. But I'm not opening that, because that changes everything, like the bounce and stuff like that. It makes it more lofted. Instead, I'm using that whole leading edge of my 60 to dig in there and keeping that ball in the middle of my stance. Another thing you want to do is use the whole club. You're going to need to generate a lot of swing speed to get this ball out. So another thing that a lot of us do in the bunker, which is normally a great play, is to choke down on the grip for control. Here, we don't want to do that. We need to use as much of that club as we can to generate the power we need. Because don't forget, once your club makes contact with that sand, especially sand that's enough that ball is surrounded by it, like a fried egg would be, that sand is going to offer a ton of resistance. I mean, it's like hitting a beanbag chair, that club is just going to be like, it's going to slow down dramatically when it makes that contact. So just by using the full length of the shaft, you're going to get a little bit more swing speed that's going to help. All right. So you want to be able to do that. And again, like you said, Mike, close your eyes and swing as hard as you can. Well, keep your eyes open so you see where the ball is, but swing as hard as you can is kind of an important thing to do. You are going to need to generate a lot of swing speed to cut through that sand.
Right.
But remember, you want to use the whole club, and you want to dig in, throw that sand. Don't be afraid to throw that sand, because I've seen it before where people will, they'll swing nice and hard, but they try to just pick that ball, and there's no real picking it when it's surrounded by like a cavern of sand all the way around it. It's just not a smart play at that point. What you need to do is just hit about, 2-3 inches behind that ball into the sand and just dig it and let the actual sand, against the club faces be what throws that ball up on the green.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth a try. I mean, how often are we going to really practice this? How often does this really happen in a round? But it does happen.
It does happen.
It does happen.
And if you're not prepared to be faced with it and not have these things, mentally in your mind, it can go downhill quickly, like it did for me on that 18th. I saw my par slip away really quick when I was 2 shots in that sand, and then 2 putts. So it's just like, just knowing this much more, who knows? I'm not saying I would have tucked it tight to the pin. Like I said, managing expectations. But I think if I had approached it a little bit more like this, at least I would have been out of that sand in one. So it's an important thing to do. And like I said, the video by Hank Haney, it's very short. It's a minute and 20 seconds. He quickly explains it and just demonstrates it. And he shows all the things that we're talking about here. But the other thing that always is a part of this is being kind of smart enough to avoid it to the amount that you can. Try to limit the amount of times you're faced with this, because like you said, Mike, it doesn't happen that often, but if we know what causes it, we can try to steer our game in a smart play away from it. So again, here, best thing you could do, avoid the fried egg altogether. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's just like we said, like always try to be, below the hole and putting uphill. It doesn't mean it's always going to happen. You got to know how to putt downhill, like we talked about in a previous episode. That's why you got to you got to know how to play this. But if you understand just the idea of why this happens, and just think about this for a second, a fried egg, the only thing that's going to cause that is a very, a high ball coming down into the sand, directly down. Right? Because if it comes down and there's any type of bounce or roll whatsoever, it's not going to create that crater. This is just a crater, because it's coming straight down and just plopping into the sand. So if you start to see a shot going into a greenside, into the green, and there's greenside bunkers, and you realize you're playing a very high shot, you may want to alter that strategy a little bit, knowing that if it's errant, it might end up as a fried egg in one of those greenside bunker. So for instance, you want to watch out for, shots played into the wind. A lot of times when you have a high shot that's played into the wind, a lot of times that ends up in a fried egg situation.
Right. The wind will push it down, right?
Exactly. Because especially when you're into that wind and you get that backspin on a high trajectory, it just lifts it even higher. Mm-hmm. And then what happens is, into the wind, often it'll stop the forward progress of the ball, right? And that ball just kind of falls from the sky. So when you have that forward progress stopped and you got a ball, just think about it. If you went, on top of a building and dropped a golf ball straight down into the sand, boom, that's a recipe for a fried egg. But if you threw a golf ball out a little lower, out towards the beach, it's going to probably hit, bounce, roll, slide, something like that. And you're going to have a little bit less of a fried egg. So that's where it's going to come from. So if you're playing, a high shot, a wedge shot, something like that into a green with greenside bunkers, you're playing it into the wind. Understand that's the recipe right there for it to happen. So in those conditions, you may want to try to play a little bit of a lower shot, maybe some sort of bump and run. Think of ways that you can work safely around that sand. It's not going to always be possible, but this is again where we're having that smart play and playing golf a little bit more with our mind than just going out there and being reactionary. Just knowing this is what could cause it. So let's be smart here. Let's lower the chances of that happening. So, not a lot of good things you can say about a fried egg.
Yeah, exactly.
There's got to be ways you can avoid it and ways you can beat it.
Right. And the whole time you're talking, I'm thinking about, a lot of the public courses that most of us play on. I mean, especially in the Northeast, most of the bunkers are like concrete anyway. So, most of the times if our ball is going in the sand, I mean, we have to take I know that I have to take a whole different approach to even coming out of the sand. I have to hit the ball a lot lighter and kind of scoop it out anyway. But when you do go to those really nice courses that are maintained, these nice country clubs down south or wherever with these nice fluffy beach bunkers, yeah, for sure this is going to happen more times.
Yeah.
Than once.
Absolutely. And it's so true. I mean, it's something to think about too, is how soft the sand is. Try to get a gauge for that, knowing the course you're playing, and then, being smart about your play and not playing too many of those really high trajectory shots, because you know that there's a strong chance of it happening. And so much sand is different, and it reacts differently. Where was it that I think you never get a plugged ball? I think I remember hearing about this watching the Masters. I think Augusta, the type of sand. I think somebody actually did an article on Golficity for that, where they talked about the actual structure of the crystals of the sand are such that it doesn't get compressed in a way that would cause that, which is just wild.
Yeah, I want to test that, firsthand.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
let's get down to Augusta.
I don't believe it. Yeah, exactly.
We're calling Augusta out. You invite us down there, and we'll be there on the next flight.
I just need 3 holes. I don't have to play the whole course.
There you go. Maybe let us play like one par 3.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
But man, that's the thing. You just gotta find ways to get out of there. What's the biggest like murder shot of all fried eggs? Does he ever get where it just comes in hot and it's like a fried egg in the face of the bunker?
Yes.
That's like forget it.
On the upslope,
the upslope, yeah.
Yeah, it's brutal because, there's a lip in front of you. And,
yeah, those are brutal. I mean, those are the ones we always see the highlights of on TV, because even the pros, there's not a whole lot they can do with it. Sometimes you'll see even the smart play, they'll come out sideways, or I've even seen them hit it backwards. And then, because again, it's rethinking your expectations, because you could go up to it, take your lofted club and swing as hard as you can. And then what happens is you just drill it 3 more inches deeper into the sand, into the face of the bunker. So that's where like these guys would be smart about it and say, it's not the best, most attractive looking play to hit it backwards out of the sand, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, you do.
Just being smart about it.
Yeah, right. And you could actually probably find a lot of great videos on YouTube of PGA pros with fried egg lies.
Yeah.
And just watching them struggle with it kind of brings a smile to my face a little bit to see that. I like to see them struggle sometimes because I want them to feel the pain as well.
They're human. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
But you know what? Look, if you see it, the one thing that you will see is that their setup is going to be the same. They're smart enough to do it the way we're talking about here. And if you're like me and you think back like, hey, you know what? I've been doing it wrong. I've been using my usual greenside bunker setup to attack this. You got to realize it may be a greenside bunker shot, but the lie makes it a totally different animal. So open stance, open club face, it's just not going to work here. It's just not going to work. You need the strength and the power of that leading edge of that lofted club to dig through this. You start getting into that really, the really open face, and you're just going to end up, smacking into the side of the ball. And like I said, just drilling it into deeper into the sand or into the lip or something. So just by doing that setup, putting some power into it, you will get out of it. If you have a practice facility where you can practice this, great. I know that's always a challenge. It's always hard to find. There's not a lot of places that have sand as part of the practice facility. But if you have it, hey, why not? What's the harm in trying it? Take a couple golf balls and throw them straight down until they plug, and see if you can pop them out and see how you can do. And like I said, have your target just be get it out onto the green,
right.
Rather than trying to rattle the pin with this one. Just try to get it on the green, get it safe, get it out, and then work on your 2-putt from there.
Right. Or if you have kids and you have a sandbox in your backyard, right?
That's right. Keep the kids as far away as possible for this one. But yeah.
Exactly.
So, all right. So that's everything we have. So again, as always, like Mike was saying earlier, continue the conversation. The best way to do that is to join our Facebook group. It's 100% free. If you're on Facebook, all you got to do is search The Golf Podcast under groups. You'll see us pop up. Click the join button and you'll be in, and you'll be able to connect with a lot of other listeners of the show. We see it's really been great because, Mike, it's not just your and my voice in there either. I love seeing, other listeners helping each other out. There's a lot of people who are, getting equipment advice. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? I'm debating between these 2 drivers. A lot of guys sharing some really cool experiences out on the course. Some people sharing some of the training aids they're using. So it's just great because, again, we're students of the game more than any part of this game. We like learning it. So when I see other people enjoying that journey of learning it and sharing that with each other, it's so similar to what we do week in and week out that, it's always great to see. So if you haven't had a chance to do that, definitely check it out. And as always, you can reach out to us directly by emailing us at podcast@golficity.com. We love to hear from you guys. And if you haven't had a chance to do so yet, please take a second to leave us a quick review on iTunes. It's the best way for us to grow the show. We've seen the show grow tremendously over the last couple of months in popularity on iTunes. And it's really been great because it's been opening some new doors to new listeners, new opportunities. And it's just been great. And it's a great way for us to grow the show. So definitely check that out and leave us a quick review when you're on there. All right. So we will talk to everybody again next week.